keeping criminals who have committed violent sex offenses behind bars. A Senate bill aiming to do so has passed its committee, but it still needs to clear some hurdles to become law. Thank you for joining us. I'm Michael Patterson. Rochelle Murcia is off for the night. In 2020, the California legislature included in its budget a provision dropping those eligible for elder parole from age 60 to 50. And now, after some violent sex offenders have been paroled in the last couple of years, the legislature is considering a bill excluding those offenders from being eligible in the future. Eyewitness News reporter Will Silverstein spoke with the lawmaker who introduced this legislation known as SB 286. He joins us now here in studio. Will.
Well, Michael, Senator Brian Jones told me this bill impacts Californians no matter where they live, and he's still in disbelief that this piece of legislation is even necessary to keep people safe.
We shouldn't have to have a Senate bill for this because it should have never been passed in the first place.
California Senator Brian Jones says Senate Bill 286, which excludes violent sex offenders from being eligible for elderly parole once they turn 50, should not even be in need of a debate.
This is such a major policy change that affects the entire state.
The senator says the legislation helps promote safety for communities around California, but has been surprised by the bill's amount of detractors.
Well, it's amazing in how many people, or organizations, I should say, in California oppose this kind of sensible parole reform.
ACLU California Action is one of those organizations, and they say, quote, the rationale for slashing the elderly parole program in half is rooted in a sensationalized notion that people convicted of murder or sexual offense pose a higher risk upon release. Taking a look at those numbers from the CDCR, the ACLU argues that California recidivism rates for elderly parole are lower than the national average, meaning those committing these crimes are less likely to strike again, pointing to a 2.2% recidivism rate, and it saves taxpayer money to house the would-be parolees. Keith Wadley from Uncommon Law agrees.
This bill would have us spend millions of dollars to incarcerate people decades after any violence risk has subsided. We can't afford to take such a misguided approach.
What about those people who said, there comes a lot of restrictions with parole. They're going to get out, but there's not a lot that they can actually do. What say you, having talked to these victims' families?
What I say to the people that oppose this bill is, if you're so, gung-ho about this, why don't you let these perpetrators, these violent criminals, move next door to you? Why don't you provide an ADU for them at your house and see how comfortable you are about having them in your, not just your neighborhood, but in your front yard or your backyard.
Following 2024's passage of Prop 36, which increased penalties for a number of crimes, Senator Jones says SB 286 is widely supported by people across the state who want to feel safe in the Golden State.
They want to be safe in San Francisco. They want to be safe in Marin. They want to be safe in San Diego, where I'm from. They want to be safe in Bakersfield, where you are. People in California want to be safe, and they're expecting their elected officials to respond appropriately, and I think that's what's happening.
The bill has been promoted by the senator as Mary Bella's Law. It's named after two victims of sexual violence who saw their perpetrators released from prison because of the newfound eligibility, an eligibility that may not exist if this bill is passed through the legislature and signed by the governor. Reporting in studio, Will Silverstein, Eyewitness News.
Hi, I'm Rochelle Murcia with Eyewitness News Bakersfield Now on YouTube. Thank you for checking out our YouTube channel where we have tons of great content to choose from. While you're here, go ahead and click on the subscribe button right there. That way you can stay up to date on all the things related within Kern County. Thanks for watching.